Sir, please unmute yourselves.
Hello.
Yes, fine.
Hello.
Sir, yes, you are audible.
Okay.
Uh-huh. So we start with the session, sir.
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. Today is the last session under Indirect Tax Practitioner course. I, Manmat Shewalkar, welcome today's speaker, CA Prahlad Mandhana, and Treasurer of Pune Vikasa, Shravan Ladda, and I welcome you all. For opening remarks and introduction of the speaker, I over to you, Shravan. Over to you, Shravan.
Good morning, everyone. Today we have with us for this last session of Indirect Tax Practitioner course series. We have with us CA Prahlad Mandhane sir, who is who is expert in the we can say refund and appeals of the indirect taxes, and he is expert in this. And I'm sure we will have I'm sure we'll get to know many things which we don't know now, but we will get to know this. And now I'll start with the introduction. Prahlad sir has a core expertise in indirect tax practitioner course, indirect tax practice. He cleared his CA final in 2004. He is currently head of indirect. He is currently head of indirect tax division at Kirtane Pandit and has great experience in indirect tax and advisory services. He has carried out many management audits, business process and transaction reviews for which focusing fully majorly on indirect taxes. He also has hands-on experience in representing clients before tax authorities for appeals, refunds, etc., in which he has represented many clients up to CE stat level. So it would be our pleasure to have such indirect tax expert on this last session of wonderful series. Over to you, Manmat.
Thanks, Shravan, for your kind words. Not taking much more of your time, I would like to request CA Prahlad Mandhana sir to start with the session.
Thank you, Manmat. Thank you, Shravan, for the kind introduction. So today we are going to discuss about refunds under GST law. I will just start my PPT. Okay. So in today's session, we are going to discuss about refunds and interest provision under GST law. You have gone through all other major topics under GST. This is the last session, and refund is something which is always all the assessees and everybody is always known to pay the taxes. So to get refund from department is really sometimes is pleasure to have refunds from department from client's perspective. So what is refund? Refund is something per se refund is not defined under GST law. So in common parlance, we can say that refund is something which is paid to the government and returned from the government. So sometimes it is because of excess payment, or sometimes some taxes are not paid, so we get it back from the department. Or sometimes it may happen just because as we do not have output liability on account of it is exempt being exports. So there is accumulation of input tax credit. You are allowed to take input tax credit, but you are not required to pay taxes. So in that scenario, there is accumulation of input tax credit, so you can apply for the refunds. So as far as provisions of refunds are concerned, section 54 to 58 of CGST Act and rule 89 to 97 of CGST rules contain these provisions. Refunds are very much important from cash flow point of view also. All those SSCs who are who are doing lot of exports, for them, they pay taxes on their domestic procurements, they pay taxes on their imports, and actually speaking, all these taxes are not cost to them. Those are available as refund. But in a scenario, if these refunds are delayed, then there would be a lot of pressure on cash flow and working capital because of that. So if we see, we have already completed 3 years of GST. In these 3 years of GST, if we see, most of the circulars and most of the changes, those are happened in refund. All these processes where there was lot of problems in issuing the refunds, because earlier the mechanism by which government was proposing to introduce the GST, that matching concept, GSTR 1, 2, 3, GSTR 2 and 3 never comes. And as GSTR 2 and 3 never comes, it was an issue with the department to how to verify the refund, how to verify eligibility and correctness of the refund. And then because of that, lot of changes has happened. Earlier it was a manual process. In between they have come up with a mix of manual and online process. In November started with complete online process. So now refunds are applied online and received online, but still processing are happening manually sometimes. So we'll start with this. When we can claim the refund, there are different cases wherein we can apply for the refunds. As earlier told, export of goods or services is one of the major area where refunds are available. Other than that, supplies to SEZ units, this export and a supply to SEZ is defined as zero rated supply under IGST Act. We'll see this in detail. Then there are deemed export, refund of taxes on purchases made by UN on embassies. Accumulated input tax credit on account of inverted duty structure is something which is new, which was not there earlier under earlier regime of excise and VAT. Then there is a refund of excess balance in electronic cash ledger. If you have paid something excess in electronic cash ledger, and if it is not required, you can apply for the refund. Refund arising on account of assessment, provisions, appeal, or any other order. Then refunds to the international tourist at the time of outbound, at the time of departure from India. Section is been prescribed under IGST law for this, but as on date, these refunds have not yet started. Then refunds on account of issuance of refund under services, GST is required to be paid on invoicing or receipt, whichever is earlier. So in a scenario, if someone has received the advance and they have not provided services ultimately, so on receipt of advance, one is required to pay tax. So once tax has been paid, and ultimately if services are not provided, then actually that tax is not payable actually. So one can apply for the refund. And last scenario could be by mistake you have treated a particular supply as intrastate supply instead of interstate. So you have paid CGST HGST instead of IGST, or vice versa, you have paid IGST instead of C and S. So whenever you come to know about this, you can there is no automatic adjustment of payment of CGST HGST vis-a-vis IGST. One need to pay target tax and apply for the refund under. So in this scenario also refund can be applied. These are the major heads under which refund can be applied. So we'll take it one by one in detail. So as I earlier said, these are the major sections under GST which are taking care of refunds. These are the rules. Rule 89 is for application, 90 is for acknowledgement, 91 is grant of provisional refund, 92 is order sanctioning the refund, 93 is related to if some refund is rejected, then how it will take care of. 94 is order for interest along with the refund. 95 is refund to certain as persons like UN and embassy. 95 is related to if there are certain departmental stores, retail departmental stores who are located at international airports, and if they are selling goods to outbound international tourists, then those stores can apply for the refund. 96 is related to taxes paid, GST paid on exports, and then application of refund. And 96B is related to recovery of input tax credit if you do not receive the money. So we'll see this in detail. So first is zero rated supply. As far as zero rated supply is concerned, we had discussed earlier, has okay, section 16 of IGST Act defines zero rated supply. Zero rated supply means any of the following supplies of goods or services or both, namely export of goods or services or both, supply of goods or services or both to a special economic zone or developer or unit in a SEZ. So a person making zero rated supply shall be eligible to claim refund as under claim of refund of unutilized ITC or claim of refund of IGST paid on supplies. So two options are available in case of zero rated supplies. Option number one is without payment of taxes. So if I do not pay tax on my output side, then in that scenario, whatever taxes are paid on input side, those will be accumulated. As those cannot be exhausted against output liability, there would be an accumulation and one can apply for those refunds. And second could be, I am allowed to pay taxes using accumulated input tax credit, and this payment can be claimed as refund. So this is claim of refund of IGST paid on zero rated supplies. So we have seen zero rated supplies are export of goods or export of services, the first limb of it other than SEZ. So export of goods and export of services are defined under IGST Act. Export of goods means taking goods out of India. There is no other condition for export of goods. If goods are taken out of India, then it will be treated as export of goods and one can apply for the refund. And what about export of services? There are certain conditions to see whether services rendered are export of services or not. The supplier of the service is located in India and recipient of service is located outside India. Place of supply of service is outside India. So here, place of supply provisions under IGST Act section 13 will be effective. We need to see whether place of supply is outside India or not. It is very much important. There are certain exceptions under place of supply rules, which says about even if recipient of service is located outside India, those services will not be treated as export because place of supply is within India. In case like intermediary, someone who is located outside India, but section 13 prescribes that place of supply in particular case of intermediary is a place from where the services are rendered. Place of supplier is treated as place of supply. So it will not be treated as exports. You must have seen this is in place of supply. Then next condition is payment should be received in convertible foreign exchange or Indian rupees wherever permitted by Reserve Bank of India. There are certain cases where Reserve Bank of India has permitted to receive proceeds of exports in INR. So in that cases also, even if INR is received, it will be considered as exports. And last condition is supplier of service and recipient are not merely establishment of distinct person. Establishment of distinct person means saying that if there is one legal entity, under one legal entity, if there are different establishment, if a branch office of an Indian company is located outside India, then it will not be considered, it will be considered as establishment of a distinct person. And therefore, even if services are provided to someone who is outside India and receipt is there against that supply in foreign currency, it will not be considered as exports. So these are the certain conditions, these are which needs to be seen to fulfill export of services. Okay. So there are different modes of claim, and actually nowadays every refund claim is going through RFD01, which is an online process, but refund claim needs to be submitted within time limit. So there are different types of services, refund claims. Any person in general claiming refund of any tax, which is, for example, excess paid by mistake or something like that. In that case, RFD01 is the form in which it needs to be applied, and refund claim should be filed within 2 years from the relevant date. What is relevant date? We are going to see from coming in coming slides. Registered person claiming IT refund of cash balance. As you must have seen that we have electronic cash ledger. Firstly, we need to pay the taxes in electronic cash ledger, and from there we do the adjustment. If there is some excess amount lying in electronic cash ledger, that can be applied. Per se, Act defines that this refund is an automatic, but that automatic was on submission of GSTR 3. As GSTR 3 is not in place, 2 and 3 are not been in place, we are going with GSTR 1 and 3B. We need to file this refund claim in RFD01. And there is no time limit to apply this refund. You can apply this refund at any point of time. Then there could be a refund on account of zero rated supplies or inverted duty structure. Okay. Just a minute. Is there any problem with my internet connection?
Yes, sir. Voice is breaking sometimes.
Okay. Let me check with the another connection.
Yes, yeah, sure.
Okay. Just let me know if there is some problem again.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we were at zero rated supplies and inverted duty structure. So in that case also refund needs to be filed within 2 years from the relevant date. And last one is refund of CGST, HGST paid instead of IGST or vice versa. So this refund claim can be filed anytime. There is no time limit per se to apply this refund claim. So what is relevant date? earlier slide, we have seen refund claim needs to be filed within due date, within 2 years from the relevant date. So what is relevant date in case of export by sea, land or post? It is when goods goes out of India. So whenever goods crosses India, it will be considered as export of goods, and from the date of that movement of goods out of India, 2 years would be seen. Is there any problem still now?
No, sir. No.
No, it's working good.
Okay. Then deemed export. Deemed exports are something where exports are there is no physical export. Export is to a entity which is going to export, kind of a EOU unit and all those. Deemed export is defined under IGST law and CGST Act, sorry. And wherever these exports, these sales are to a particular units defined under CGST, it would be considered as deemed export, and date on which the return related to such deemed export is filed will be treated as relevant date for it. Then export of services. In case of export of services, relevant date is date of receipt of payment or issue of invoice, whichever is latter. At every other point, we see that taxes are payable on whichever is earlier, receipt of payment or issuance of invoice, whichever is earlier. Here, as far as relevant date for export of services are concerned, receipt of payment or issuance of invoice, whichever is latter, is important. Inverted duty structure, again, return filing date would be considered as relevant date, and from that 2 years will be counted. Any other case, then it would be date of payment of tax. So these are the relevant dates which are very much important. If we pass these relevant dates, and if we cannot able to submit our refund claims within due time of 2 years, then those refunds are not allowed. Now we will go through each and every all the different refund types which we have discussed, and how to go ahead with filing of refund claim for those. So first one is refund of excess balance in cash ledger. I'd spoken this earlier also. Sometimes it happened that we pay some taxes in our electronic cash ledger, and ultimately at other point of time, we are not required, we do not have any liabilities. So, or sometimes it also happened that by mistake you paid the taxes under different head. Earlier this was scenario that by mistake, instead of paying CGST, GST, I have paid in IGST, or I have paid in head of penalty. So if I have paid taxes under different head, at that time I was not able to utilize it for payment of taxes for the correct head. Now PMT 10 has been introduced, by which we can transfer taxes from one head to another head. So this issue would not be there henceforth. But earlier this issue was there. Being new tax law, people used to pay taxes, but it was getting paid under different head. And once it is paid under different head, it cannot be adjusted. So in such scenario, that cash was lying there, so one can apply for the refunds. So excess deposit in cash ledger which is not adjustable, this is the one scenario. Second could be advance payment of tax into government treasury account against which no supplies are made. So for example, casual taxable person is required to deposit taxes in advance, and ultimately that much liability doesn't accrue. So whatever excess payment is there, that can be applied as refund claim. And third could be the amount of tax deposited. There is concept called as TDS under GST law, wherein if you are making supplies to government entities, they are deducting TDS. So, and this TDS is available just like income tax TDS. This will be treated as advance payment of taxes, and that can be adjusted against our liabilities. But if in a scenario, if your output tax liability minus in ITC available to you, if it is not sufficient enough, it is very less and your TDS amount is more, in that case that a TDS will be additional cash in your electronic cash ledger. So one can apply for refund for that also. So document important, I have covered only important documents to be submitted along with these refund claims. Actually, entire exhaustive list of documents to be submitted along with refund claims are annexed with a circular which is issued in November, circular number 125. Entire list is available over there, exhaustive list. So important documents to be submitted along with refund of excess cash balances. RFD01 is the electronic form which gets submitted automatically. Along with that, we need to submit electronic cash ledger, and GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 to the date of application of refund claim should have been submitted. If those are not submitted, refunds are not granted. So these are the important documents. Now, per se, this is very simple refund because nothing, no verification happens in that case, because that much cash is available in electronic cash ledger and that is refunded. So we are going to deal with second case, refund of unutilized ITC under section 54 subsection 3. So section 54 subsection 3 deals with zero rated supplies and inverted duty rate structure. What is inverted duty structure? I will discuss this in detail in coming slides. Zero rated supplies we have already spoken about. So if zero rated supplies are without payment of taxes, as it is without payment of taxes, there is no output tax liability at one hand, and there is accumulation of input tax rate at another hand. So accumulation is there, so one can apply for that refund under 54.3. Inverted duty structure. Inverted duty structure also there is an additional accumulation of ITC, so one can apply for the refund claim. There are certain exceptions to inverted duty structure. Those are under notification 5/2017, wherein certain goods and services are defined for which, okay, I will discuss about inverted duty structure right here only. Inverted duty structure is a structure wherein my output tax rate is lesser than my tax rate on my purchases. Suppose I am purchasing inputs and suppose I am purchasing inputs which are at the rate of 12% or 18%, 28% at times, but my output tax rate is suppose 5% or 12%. So if my rate of tax on inputs is more than my rate of tax on output, certainly I'm paying more taxes to my vendors, so there would be more input tax credit to me. As this additional input tax credit, this input tax credit vis-a-vis my output tax liabilities is very less. So there would be an accumulation. This accumulation is this duty structure is called as inverted duty rate structure, in which my ITC is more, output tax liability is less, so I can apply for the refund. There are certain conditions to it. Those conditions we will deal in later slides. So it's there are certain exceptions, and even merchant exporter is considered in inverted duty structure. Merchant exporter is a concept wherein I'm a trader of goods. I procure certain goods, or even I can be a manufacturer, but I am selling to a person who is going to export it out of India. So if I am selling to a person who is going to export the goods as it is out of India, so on output side of a merchant exporter, there is no tax, but on input side there is a tax. So earlier when GST was implemented, it was full tax. So there was a lot of working capital issues to the merchant exporter, because on purchase side they have to pay taxes at 12%, 18%, and output side there was no tax. So and refund processes were not streamlined, so there was a lot of delay in getting the refunds. So they were facing a lot of issues of cash flow. So government have come up with a exemption notification wherein one is allowed to sell to a merchant exporter at a rate of 0.1%, very nominal rate of tax, and so that the seller, so the purchaser from whom the goods are purchased by merchant exporter, they will levy a less tax. So for the manufacturer, suppose I am a manufacturer, I am selling goods to the merchant exporter, and if I am selling the goods to the merchant exporter at 0.1%, so certainly there would be an accumulation to me, because I am going to purchase at higher rate and my output tax rate is just 0.1%. So I am also getting covered under inverted duty structure, and I am also eligible to take refund under this. Then there are certain restrictions where refund claim cannot be filed under section 54(3). Those restrictions are: if the goods which I am exporting, if those are subjected to export duty, then I am not allowed to take refund. If I am claiming duty drawback of central tax, duty drawback is an incentive given by central government for the exporters. So if I am claiming the duty drawback of central tax, this is very important. If I am claiming duty drawback of, actually there are two types of there were two types of duty drawback. One is duty drawback related to basic custom duty, and one is basic custom duty plus central tax. So if I am claiming refund of duty drawback of basic custom duty, then I am allowed to take refund. But if I am taking duty drawback related to central tax also, then refund is not allowed. Then next point is this particular section deal with refund of accumulated input tax credit. So if I'm paying taxes on my output side, so if I am paying IGST on my exports, then I am not allowed to take refund of ITC. Simple, and you cannot have two benefits from one supply. Either I am allowed to take refund of accumulated ITC, or I am allowed to take refund of taxes paid on my output supply. So if I have applied for refund of ITC on output supplies, then refund under this particular section will not be allowed. So we have discussed about this. There are refund inverted duty. There would just a minute. So refund of unutilized ITC is there for two cases: inverted duty structure and exports of goods. Refund needs to be filed in RFD 01. Okay. So coming to the inverted duty rate structure, we have discussed what is the inverted duty rate structure. Inverted duty under inverted duty structure, as my input tax rate is more than, there is one more major condition under section 54 for inverted duty. That condition is rate of my input tax, only input is considered. This is very important. Rate of input is more than my output tax. So if I am in totality, suppose I am a manufacturer, to manufacture certain goods, I procure inputs also, input services also, and capital goods also. And I am allowed to take input tax credit of input services and capital goods. In totality, I may be paying more than my output. So there is an accumulation. But refund would not be allowed. Refund would be allowed only in a scenario where you are paying taxes more on your raw material. If you are paying taxes more on your raw material, then your output tax liability, then only refund is allowed. So entry point for inverted duty structure is tax on input is more than my output tax liability. So input services or capital goods are not considered over here. But a scenario, this is the entry point. But once you are allowed to have refund claim under inverted duty structure, then you are allowed to take refund of input tax credit availed by you. So in the over there, they are not differentiating between whether it is input service or capital goods. This is the section 54(3), and rules are there under 89. 89 rule is there, wherein they have given the formula for refund claim. Okay, so I have taken over here that if this formula for refund claim speaks about how the refund claim would be given, maximum refund amount would be turnover of converted duty rate supplies multiplied by net ITC divided by adjusted total turnover minus tax payable on inverted rate of goods. So what is net ITC? Rule 89 says that net ITC is ITC availed only on inputs. It is not considering input services. And adjusted total turnover is all taxable supplies minus export exempt supplies plus export supplies. So there is a conflict between section and rules. Section allows me to claim refund of input services also, whereas rules restrict me from taking refund of input services. So recently, Gujarat High Court in the decision of VKC Footsteps India Private Limited has said that this rule is not in line with section, as subordinate legislation. Rules are subordinate legislations and act is a main legislation. So subordinate legislation cannot restrict something which main legislation allows you. So under main legislation, refund of input services is also emphasized. Rules cannot restrict it. So Gujarat High Court has given a decision that refund is allowed in case of input services also. This is very recent judgment. We need to see whether government is going to go with the Supreme Court arrangement or they are going to change the rule. So right now situation is that rule is not allowing refund of input services, but VKC Footstep is there to help us in that. So this is the case of inverted duty structure, how refund is to file under inverted duty structure. There are certain restrictions under which refund claim cannot be filed under inverted duty structure. If my output supply is nil rated or wholly exempt. Suppose I am manufacturer of certain goods on which output tax rate is 0, then in that scenario, I am not allowed to take, because in that scenario, what is going to happen on output side, there would be no tax. On input side, I am going to procure certain goods on which taxes are paid. So there would be an accumulation because ITC is more, output side no tax. So one can say that this is also a case where it gets fitted into inverted duty structure. So it is not like that. If my output tax rate is 0, then I am not allowed to take refund under inverted duty structure. I'm allowed to take refund under inverted duty structure only in a scenario where there is some tax on output side. I think I am making the difference very clear. Inverted duty structure is allowed only if there is output tax applicable. If output tax is nil or wholly exempted, then refund under inverted duty structure is not allowed. This is scenario number one, where refund is not allowed, and another scenario is there wherein they have defined certain goods and services wherein even if there is tax payable on output side, refund would not be allowed if there is an accumulation. So under goods, if supplies to railways which are getting covered under chapter 86 of tariff, there even if there is an accumulation of input tax credit, refund would not be allowed. And second is construction service. So if you are providing construction services and there is an accumulation, refund under inverted duty structure would not be allowed. Refund of okay, so we have discussed about inverted duty, refund under inverted duty structure. Now let us discuss about refund of unutilized ITC on export supplies to SEZ. As we have already discussed under zero rated supplies, that under section 16 of IGST Act, we are allowed to take input tax credit and we are not required to pay taxes on output side if my supplies is zero rated. So in that particular scenario, I can apply for the refund claim. A person making zero rated supply shall be eligible to claim refund of unutilized ITC in case of supplies to he can supply without payment of taxes under LUT, letter of undertaking. Letter of undertaking is a document wherein I take an undertaking, I sign an undertaking wherein I say that if the subjected goods or services are not exported in due course of time, I will pay the taxes on the same. Where the refund can be claimed by the export of exempted goods. Yes, this is a crucial point. In normal scenario, if I am a trader or manufacturer who is dealing in a exempted goods, if output tax rate is 0, then I am not allowed to take credit also. Credit related to exempted goods is restricted under section 17. So I am not allowed to take credit if I am dealing in a exempted goods. But this particular restriction is not applicable in case I am an exporter of exempted goods. If I am an exporter of exempted goods, even if on output side no tax is payable otherwise, I am allowed to take ITC, I am allowed to take input tax credit on all purchases which I made, and the refund can be filed. So this benefit is given under section 16 of IGST Act. This is one, and in that particular case, I am not required to file LUT also, because LUT is undertaking wherein I sign that I will pay taxes, I will pay applicable taxes if I could not export a particular goods, which I have declared that these goods are meant for export, but if I could not export it, then I undertake that I will pay applicable taxes. As in case of exempted goods, applicable taxes are 0. As applicable taxes are 0, I need not file LUT. But one thing is very clear: if ultimately I could not export the goods which are exempted, then I will not be eligible to take credit also, and ultimately refund also. So if I want to claim refund in if I am a manufacturer who is dealing in exempted goods, and if I want to claim refund of input tax credit availed utilized for manufacturing of exempted goods, those goods needs to be exported. If those goods are sold in a domestic market, then ITC is also not allowed and refund is also not allowed. But if I could export it, then I can claim the ITC and I can claim the refund also. So this is very crucial and advantageous scenario for the people who are into exports, who are manufacturing exempted goods, because otherwise for a person who is in a domestic business, for him it becomes a cost because ITC is not allowed. But as government want to promote exports, they have given this additional benefit for those exporters also who are dealing in exempted goods, so that export would be really a zero rated supply, and that additional cost would not be there for them. So coming to what is formula, how refund will be granted. Refund would be granted. One second. There could be a case where exporter is not only exporter, he is selling goods into domestic area also. So there is output tax liability also, and for some of the item, for some part of the sales, taxes are not payable. So in that scenario, there would be a little bit accumulation. So refund would be allowed in proportion of export sales. So if I am doing exports, so if my export are 50% out of my total business, then I will be allowed refund in this that particular formula only. So turnover of zero rated supply divided by adjusted total turnover multiplied by net ITC, that is the maximum refund claim which I can apply. I cannot apply for the 100% accumulation. There could be different reasons for accumulation. Inventory pile up could be also reason. When I have purchased a lot of inventory, as input tax credit is allowed on purchases only. So I have a lot of inventory. So there are a lot of ITC available with me. As there are no sale, there is accumulation, but I cannot apply for the refund of accumulation on account of inventory pile up by way of this refund. So government is going to give me refund only on that much ITC which is related to exports. So if my ITC is not related to my exports, I'm not allowed to take refund. This is very clear. So this formula will be important to play this to decide what is the ITC related to exports. One change over here as compared to inverted duty structure. Under inverted duty structure, we have seen under rules, refund of only as per rules, and just for a time being, let us keep that VKC decision apart and Gujarat High Court judgment. As per rule, refund of only ITC is allowed. Under refund of ITC in case of exports, refund of inputs and input services is allowed. Here, capital goods is not allowed. So we need to keep this mind, because these are very crucial points. Whenever we are going to apply for the refund claim, we should be very much sure that for what amount, for which inputs we are claiming the refund. So we need to differentiate our input tax credit statement into three parts: inputs, input services, and capital goods. So whenever I am going to apply for refund claim for export of goods or services, I will be allowed to take refund of inputs and input services. and ITC related to, there are two small rules, 4A and 4B. 4A is related to deemed export and 4B is related to merchant exports. If those kind of exports are there, then to that extent my ITC needs to be reduced. Then how to calculate zero rated supply of services? One difference is there. Just pay attention over here. It is very important point. Why we submit GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, we submit our turnover on the basis of accrual. On issuance of invoice, we submit turnover in GSTR 1 as well as in GSTR 3B. This is applicable for goods as well as for services. In refund, however, we had seen earlier, in case of export of services, relevant date is receipt of money or invoicing, whichever is latter. So what is turnover of zero rated supply of services to claim refund? That is on receipt basis. How to calculate on receipt basis? We'll just go through. Payment received for the services provided in the relevant period. So we need to see that what is the money received during the period. Suppose I am filing refund claim for the month of October 2019. So I will see what is the money received during the month of October plus supply completed for which payment is received in advance. So in a particular scenario, suppose you are getting something in advance. So that advance will not be treated as your turnover. For GSTR 1 and 3B, it will be considered as your turnover you report over there. But for refund calculation purpose, that amount will be calculated, will be considered only when I raise an invoice against that advance. So supply completed means whenever supply get completed, I am required to raise an invoice. So if I am receiving advance, then in that case, that advance will be considered as exports only when I issue an invoice for that service, minus advances received for which supply has not been completed. So what I will do, I will consider receipts during the month plus services completed during the month for which advances were received in the past, minus advances received in the month for which services are not provided. So this formula takes care of whichever is latter, receipt or invoice, whichever is latter. So turnover of zero rated supplies of services is on the basis of, is not on the basis of accrual, wherein GSTR 1, 3B are submitted on accrual basis. Here we need to calculate my turnover of zero rated supply of services on receipt or invoicing, whichever is latter. This is very important change. Normally this doesn't happen in case of goods, and in case of GSTR 1 and 3B also we go on accrual. But as whenever I'm going to file refund claim for services, I need to consider this. This is applicable in both the scenarios where I'm claiming refund of accumulated ITC, or I am claiming refund of taxes paid on my output side. This is one. Adjusted turnover is just like adjusted turnover is as far as goods is concerned, that is on accrual basis. As far as services are concerned, just whatever we have discussed earlier, in that way, whichever is latter, invoicing or receipt, whichever is latter. And from there we have to exclude value of exempt supplies other than zero rated supplies. Exempt supplies other than zero rated supplies. So if there are certain exempt supplies which are made in domestic market, if I am doing domestic business also, and if there are certain exempted supplies which are made in domestic market, to that extent, I have to reduce my total turnover because I am not allowed to take input tax credit also on that particular business line, which is related to domestic market. So to that extent, I need to reduce the turnover, and again that 4A, 4B, we need to reduce. So this will be considered as my total turnover. So how refund would be allowed to me? Refund of exports divided by total multiplied by total ITC availed during the period. So as I'm taking ratio of exports to my total business, this ratio will restrict my total ITC also. And this is the maximum amount of refund which I can claim. So suppose in a particular scenario, in a month, I have claimed ITC of 10 lakhs rupees. My exports are 80% of my total. So my maximum refund claim would be 80 divided by 100 multiplied by 100. So it would be 80%, 8 lakhs in our case. So I can apply for the refund of 8 lakhs. Now this 8 lakhs is further compared with my ITC available with my electronic credit ledger. Suppose I am eligible for refund of 8 lakhs and ITC available in my electronic credit ledger is just 5 lakhs. Then I will be allowed to take refund of only 5 lakhs. But suppose credit available in my electronic credit ledger is 10 lakhs. Maybe because of accumulation of ITC on account of inventory pile up. So I will be allowed to take credit of minimum 8 lakhs or 10 lakhs, whichever is lower. So 8 lakhs. So this refund amount is getting compared at 3 levels. Firstly, what I am going to do, I am going to calculate ITC related to exports business. So proportionate amount would be considered as my refund. So this is number one. Number two, I will compare this amount with credit balance available at the time of filing of refund claim and at the closure of refund period, whichever is less. Again, everywhere it is whichever is less. So I will compare refund amounts in three. One, proportionate ITC. Number two, closing balance for the relevant refund period. And third, when I am going to apply for the refund. So in these three cases, whichever is less amount, that would be available as a refund. So this is just abstract of RFD01, where we need to submit this refund calculation, that turnover of zero rated supply of goods and services, net ITC, adjusted turnover. So refund amount is calculated as 1 into 2 divided by 3. And they need to do some details of export invoices. So these are the invoice details, goods and services, shipping bill number. So shipping bill number, EGM details, FRC details are required to verify conditions of exports. We had discussed this earlier, that there are definition of export of goods and export of services. So as far as export of goods is concerned, moving the goods from India to outside India is the condition. So we need to give shipping bill as my export document as proof of export, and in case of services it would be bank realization certificate or FIRC. So important documents could be RFD01, FIRC in case of exports, Annexure B. Annexure B is the statement wherein I give the details of all invoices on which I have taken the input tax credit. So I have to give the statement wherein I will give supplier name, GSTN number, tax, HSN number. This is very important. HSN number or SSC number the statement needs to be uploaded along with refund claim. Here, important factor is that as we are going to submit this annexure B, on the basis of HSN number, one can easily identify whether there are capital goods involved or not. If, as we have discussed, that this particular refund claim, we are not allowed to take refund of capital goods. So on the basis of HSN, department officer can identify whether I am taking input tax credit related to capital goods also or not. So this annexure B is an additional requirement which has been, recently they have introduced this. Then we need to submit GSTR 3B and GSTR 1. There are various declarations related to this, and GSTR 2A. GSTR 2A is backdoor entry actually, but that is also very much important to claim refund. GSTR, okay, let us discuss about GSTR 2A. What is GSTR 2A? You all of are aware that whenever I purchase something, the supplier report his sale in GSTR 1, that get reflected in GSTR 2A as my purchases. So refund would be allowed only to the extent of reporting happened in GSTR 2A. If I had made certain purchases which are not reported by my supplier in his GSTR 1, then it will not get reflected in GSTR 2A. If our input tax credit on which I am claiming the refund, if it is not reported in GSTR 2A, then the refund is not allowed. This is very recent amendment, just in March they have come up with this circular. Earlier provision was that if amount is not getting reflected in 2A, you are allowed to submit invoice copy, and on the basis of invoice copy, refund was allowed. Now they are saying nothing doing. If amount is not getting reflected in GSTR 2A, then you will not be allowed to take refund. Will not give you any refund. So per se, if we really see whether this is correct condition or not, certainly this will get challenged, because my act does not say me that this is the condition, that unless and until amount get reflected in GSTR 2A, then only you will get refund. But subordinate legislation, and this is not in rules also, this is come up with a circular wherein they have saying that if amount is not getting reflected in GSTR 2A, that much amount would not be allowed as refund. So that circular is certainly getting challenged. As this is very recent, we have not yet received any judgment on this, but I'm very sure that very near future we'll get the judgment that condition of setting input tax credit in GSTR 2A is not a correct condition. It is not, this is somewhere going out of the law. Law is not prescribing the condition. Even rules are not, there is one rule 36(4) which allow me to take credit of input tax credit, which is 110% of credit matching with GSTR 2A. So there they are giving leverage of 10%. I am not allowed to take credit of all inputs which I am procuring. I am allowed to take input tax credit only 110% of input tax credit which is matching with 2A. That is a rule. Again, whether that rule is correct or not, that is again a question mark, because already some people have filed a writ petition for that, because that rule is again going beyond the law. The particular section which gives this type of restriction, that is not yet notified. That section is not notified. So rule is going beyond law. Law is not restricting this type of credit, this type of restriction, but rule is restricting. So 36(4) is already under litigation. Similarly, while allowing a refund claim, at least they are giving me margin of 10%. While availing input tax credit, they are giving me margin of 10%. But while sanctioning refund claim, they are not giving me margin of this 10% also. They are saying that unless and until it is matching with 2A, refund is not allowed. Okay, this is important. we need to keep this in mind. So while applying the refund claim, we must be sure that for whatever amount I'm applying for the refund claim, it is getting reflected in 2A. Otherwise, if it is not getting reflected in 2A, to that extent, my refund will be disallowed and I should be ready for the litigation. So similarly, in case of unutilized ITC on SEZ supplies, SEZ supplies are zero rated supplies. Those are considered as physical export under SEZ Act, but goods do not go out of India. Those are getting supplied to SEZ entity. So here, apart from other condition, one additional documents need to be submitted, that is endorsement from the specified officer that he has received the goods. So whenever I am supplying any goods to an SEZ unit, that SEZ unit is a restricted area wherein specified officer is there who which is under physical control of that specified officer. So if I am selling any goods to the SEZ unit, I need to submit endorsement from that specified officer that he has received the goods and that unit has received the goods. That is one of the condition. Another condition is I need to submit a declaration that I have not recovered taxes from the SEZ unit. This condition is not there for exports. In case of exports, and I'm going to cover this in later slides also. In case of exports, even if I have recovered the money from my customer, I am allowed to take refund. But in case of SEZ, if I have recovered the taxes from my customer, then I am not allowed to take refund. So I need to sign a declaration wherein I am saying that taxes are not recovered from the customer. Apart from this, all other things are same. RFD 01, same form, statement in Annexure B, then GSTR 3B and 1. Again, here also we need to submit GSTR 2A. I just missed to mention over that. GSTR 2A is required in this case also. Other than that, these two important things: endorsement from specified officer and declaration. Okay, so till now we were discussing about refund of accumulated input tax credit. Whatever has been accumulated, I can apply for the refund. As discussed earlier, there are two ways of claiming refund. Number one, refund of accumulated input tax credit. Number two, I have an accumulation. What I do, instead of claiming refund of accumulation on supply, I charge the taxes. So whenever I am making zero rated supply, whenever I am making exports, I charge taxes on my export invoice. I report it as taxes exports with payment of duty in my GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. So as I am reporting in my 3B as with payment of duty, that much liability get calculated in 3B, and this liability is paid by utilizing of accumulated input tax credit. So in alternative mechanism, what I am doing, whatever accumulation is there, I am utilizing that accumulation for payment of tax. I am generating liability on which otherwise I am not required to pay taxes. On zero rated supplies, I am not required to pay taxes on output side. So I am generating liability on output side, and that liability is getting compensated, getting offset with accumulated input tax credit. So as this liability is generated and adjusted against input tax credit, that accumulated input tax credit will come down. So that accumulation would not be there, but I have paid something on which taxes are not paid otherwise. So here there are two scenarios: refund in case of goods and refund in case of services. In case of goods, procedure is very simple. I need to report it as my payment of tax exports in my shipping bill. Shipping bill is a document which is prepared at customs for export of goods. So whenever I submit my shipping bill, I need to submit it as this is export with payment of duty. This whenever shipping bill gets submitted and I submit my GSTR 1 and 3B along with details of shipping bill that taxes are paid on output side. So this get automatically processed in GST portal and refund gets sanctioned. So I need not apply for the refund claim. No application is required in this scenario. No application is required. Shipping bill details submitted by me to customs and GSTR 1 and 3B details submitted in GST returns. These get cross-verified internally and basis that refund is sanctioned. So this is very simple process of refund wherein I need not file any refund claim. I just need to submit certain documents with due care. I just need to submit shipping bill, GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, and if all these three things get matched with each other, refund get processed to my account directly. There is one restriction over here. Restriction is Rule 9610. Rule 90, I'm going to discuss this in later slides. So just keep in mind that there is one restriction. If I am falling under 9610, then I am not allowed to take refund by this mechanism. Okay. Otherwise, I am allowed to take refund. Only one restriction, 9610. We will discuss this in later slides. So we discuss about goods. Goods is an automatic refund. Similarly, in case of services, for services it is not automatic. For services, what I need to do? I need to submit GSTR 1. I need to submit GSTR 3B with payment of taxes, and then whenever I receive foreign currency, then I need to apply for refund claim in RFD 01. So this is application process. That was automatic. For services, it is application. So I need to submit application in RFD 01. Then FIRC there. Here also they are asking for GSTR 2A. To my mind, actually refund. I'm not taking a refund of ITC. I am paying the taxes and claiming a refund of taxes paid on my output side. So to my mind, requirement of GSTR 2A in this refund claim is not there. But right now circular says that we need to submit GSTR 2A, so we are submitting it. But in my view, it is not correct required. So we are done with, till now we are done with export of goods and services with payment of duty or without payment of duty and inverted duty structure. So now coming to deemed export. So deemed export notification number 48/2017 defines what is deemed export. Deemed export means if supply is made to a against advance authorization or EPCG, export promotion capital goods, or supplies are made to EOU unit, EHTP unit, STP unit, BTP unit, or some gold supply of gold by a bank or public sector undertaking. So these are the typical supplies which are defined. If my supplies are getting captured in this defined supplies, then it will be considered as deemed export. I need to follow certain procedures for this deemed export. I need to give prior intimation to the department that I am going to supply. Manmat, how much question answer session, how much time it will take? So how much time I have?
So as of now, you have half hour late.
We have 30 minutes.
30 minutes, yes, sir.
Okay, so including question answer or without question answers?
Including question answers.
Okay, fine. Okay, so if I wish to take benefit of deemed exports, then deemed exports are with payment of taxes only. So I cannot supply without payment of taxes in deemed export. I need to pay taxes and then apply for the refund. So very important is prior intimation is required before supply. Prior intimation is there required. Once I do the prior intimation to the officer, I need to have an endorsement copy from the unit that unit has received the goods. So that will be considered as proof of exports. Then I need to maintain certain records. Some forms are required to be submitted and be gone through. Those are just a procedure requirement. Just two important things. Prior intimation is required, and second, I need to have proof of export from the unit that they have received the goods. In case of deemed export, either recipient of goods or services can apply for the refund claim, or supplier can apply for the refund claim. Anyone can apply for the refund claims. So if recipient of deemed export applies for the refund claim, supplier cannot apply. And if supplier is applying for the refund claim, he just need to submit that the recipient has not applied for the refund claim, as well as he has not taken input tax credit, because I have charged taxes on my invoice. So that is eligible document to claim the credit, as invoice taxes are charged on tax invoice. I need to give a declaration that he has not taken input tax credit. So these two are important, and some different conditions in case of deemed exports. That one is intimation is required, endorsement is required, and third is anyone can apply. Till now, whatever we have discussed, in all scenarios, only supplier can apply for the refund claim. Obviously, and all those cases where export of goods or export of services. So export of goods or export of services, only supplier can apply. Whereas in case of SEZ supplies and deemed export supplies, as recipient are also located in India, they can also apply for the refund claim. So what are the various forms for refund claim? We have spoken a lot about RFD 01. It is the application form. RFD 02 is an acknowledgement. RFD 03 is a deficiency memo. RFD 04 is provisional refund order. 05 is payment advice. 06 is refund sanction / rejection order. 7 is adjustment order, adjustment against any liabilities, any dues to the department. RFD 08 is show cause notice, and RFD 09 is reply to the show cause notice. We'll discuss this in next slides. So whenever we submit online application, on submit of online application, we need to differentiate this online application into two parts. One is refund of cash, refund of cash available in electronic cash ledger, and any other. So if I'm applying for refund of electronic cash ledger balance, then submission of RFD 01, that is considered as acknowledgement, and from that 60 days period in which officer need to pass an order that get calculated. So per se, there is no official acknowledgement given, that is deemed acknowledgement. On submission of RFD 01, it is a acknowledgement. In any other case, officer will go into our refund application. He will verify whether all the requirement documents are submitted or not submitted, and within 15 days from the date of application of RFD 01, he need to give me acknowledgement. If I have not submitted all the documents, then he will issue deficiency memo in RFD 03, and if all the documents are duly submitted, then he will issue me acknowledgement in RFD 02. So within 15 days from the submission of online application, I get the acknowledgement. If I have received the acknowledgement, that means all the documents are submitted. And if some of the documents are not submitted, then he is required to issue RFD 03. Now, once RFD 03 is issued, I cannot reply to RFD 03. I need to apply fresh. This is very crucial. As I am going to apply fresh, relevant date, 2 years time limit will be applicable from fresh application. So this is very crucial. I need to keep in mind whenever if I am submitting any refund claim which is about to get time barred, then I must be very much sure that I am submitting all the relevant documents. If some of the relevant documents are not submitted and officer issues me RFD 03 after the relevant time period of 2 years, because he has time of 15 days, and if I apply for the refund claim just 2 days before completion of 2 years, and if RFD 03 is issued, then I will be in trouble. So in my view, we should keep 15 days time gap while submitting refund claim. We should expect that if RFD 03 is issued, I should have sufficient time to submit the refund claim afresh. This is very important. So once acknowledgement is issued in RFD 02, so there is no deficiency, acknowledgement is issued RFD 02. Once acknowledgement is issued, then all the refund claims will be bifurcated into two parts. One is refunds on account of zero rated supplies and other. If my refund is on account of zero rated supplies, within 7 days from the date of acknowledgement, department will issue me 90% of the refund on provisional basis. This is very welcome stage actually, as otherwise exporters were facing problem with their working capital. So department is saying that we accept your submission, and we as the complete verification process has not completed, but still on the basis of your submission, we are giving you 90% refund upfront. So on receipt of acknowledgement within 7 days, I get 90%. This 90% is only in case of zero rated supplies. So that provisional refund application is issued in RFD 04, and payment advice will be issued in RFD 05. This 90% refund claim would be available only if there are no dues against me. If I am a defaulter, then this 90% benefit will not be available to me, and balance 10% will be sanctioned to me after due verification. And if after verification, if it is seen that I have been given refund more, that 90, suppose I am eligible for only 80% refund, whereas 90% is already sanctioned, then in that case for 10% there would be recovery proceedings. Then withholding of refund. Withholding of refund, section 54 subsection 10 specifies certain scenarios where refund would not be sanctioned. If I am a defaulter in furnishing returns, or if an assessee has not paid certain taxes. Suppose order is passed against assessee and he has not got any stay for that order, or he has not applied appealed that order. So in that scenario, if some dues are there towards department, to that extent my refund will get withheld. This is one in where I apply under RFD 01. But we also know that there is automatic refund process also in case of goods. So in case of goods, refund get automatically sanctioned. But there also, if my jurisdictional officer intimate to the customs that for this particular person, please withhold the refund, even if it is automatic refund, my refund will get withheld. So this is under 54 subsection 10. Then once my refund, once provisional refund claim is been sanctioned 90%, then for balance 10%, refund sanction order will be sanctioned. So that will happen within 60 days from the date of application. Okay, so we have seen the RFD 01 refund application, acknowledgement, deficiency memo, provisional refund is for 90%, payment advice is just an advance for payment, refund sanction order in RFD 06. If there is an adjustment against liabilities against any dues, then RFD 07 would be issued. If there are certain issues in refund, then department can issue me RFD 08. So department issues me a show cause notice why your refund should not be disallowed. That show cause notice is issued in RFD 08 and I can reply to that show cause notice in RFD 09. So we have seen that refund needs to be sanctioned within 60 days from the date of submission of the refund. And if refund is not sanctioned within 60 days, then government is required to pay me interest. So that interest rate is just 6%. So there are different scenarios. Suppose my refund is withheld for some of the reason, and the reason for withheld is made cured by me at later stage. In that case, department will give me interest at 6%. If it is a normal delayed refund, I have applied for the refund, but department would not process it within 60 days. Then also they will pay me 6%. And last scenario is my refund is on account of certain orders, certain court orders or something wherein I have received a favorable judgment, and on account of favorable judgment, if I have applied for the refund claim and department has not issued me refund within 60 days time, then they need to pay me interest at the rate of 9%. Okay, so as far as refunds are concerned, last two slides, who cannot apply for the refunds? So number one, if the unutilized ITC of GST paid on export of on goods exported out of India which attract export duty, there are very few goods on export duty is applicable. If goods are attracting export duty, then I am not allowed to apply for the refund claims. Then second scenario could be unutilized ITC is restricted only if there is a we have discussed this earlier. If duty drawback is claimed of CGST portion and duty drawback rates are already defined, earlier there were two rates. One was for BCD portion and another was BCD plus CGST portion. And that was actually central tax and excise duty and all that were considered. So now there is only one rate, that is of BCD. So per se, this particular restriction was there during the transition phase where two rates were there for duty drawback. Lower rate was there for BCD and higher rate was there for BCD plus central taxes. Now there is only one rate, that is for basic custom duty. So now this problem is not there. This problem was there only during the transition phase where two rates were there. Again, there is a hitch. Duty drawback rate was there for basic custom duty plus central taxes. We were not allowed to have duty, and a duty drawback was not given related to state taxes. So in that particular scenario also, I can apply for the refund for SGST portion of accumulation, as I have not applied for duty drawback for state tax. I have applied for refund claim only of central tax. This was very limited application only during the transition phase. Right now per se this is not applicable. Then we have seen that in case of duty inverted duty structure, there are certain notified goods supplies to railways and certain notified services, construction service, wherein even if you are fitting into inverted duty structure, refund claim is not allowed. And last one is unutilized ITC of inverted duty structure where output rate is 0. We have discussed all this, and in all these cases I am not allowed to take refund. Then this is the last slide on refund. wherein I had discussed and we had discussed about two scenarios of refund: with payment of taxes or without payment of taxes. Without payment of taxes, per se, there are no restrictions. With payment of taxes, there is restriction under Rule 96 sub Rule 10. This is that restriction wherein they are saying that if, as a supplier, I am taking benefits of any of these exemption notifications. If, as a supplier, I am receiving certain goods, suppose I am a EOU unit and I am procuring goods under notification 48. If I am procuring goods under notification 48, then I am not allowed to apply for the refund claim with payment of taxes. Second could be, if I am a merchant exporter. Being merchant exporter, I am procuring goods at 0.1%. As I am procuring goods at concessional rate of duty, I cannot pay taxes on my output side and apply for the refund claim. So per se, as far as merchant exporters are concerned, they cannot go for refund claims with payment of duty. And second is, if I am procuring certain goods against advance authorization, so if I am not paying taxes on my input side, advance authorization is the authorization wherein I can procure goods without payment of taxes. I can procure raw material without payment of taxes. And if I have procured raw material without payment of taxes, then on sales side, I cannot go for with payment of taxes. So these are the three restrictions under which I am not allowed to claim refund with payment of taxes. Okay. So as far as refunds are concerned, we are done with. So there is one small additional topic in that interest one, interest payable under GST law. So section 50 defines specifies this interest is payable. So if you have paid any taxes late, those are not paid in time, then you need to pay taxes along with interest. So per se, there are two rates applicable. One is 18%. 18% is applicable in a scenario where output tax liability is paid late. So if for example, I have not for the month of March, I am required to pay some 2 lakhs rupees as liability, and this March liability should be paid along with 3B by 20th of April. But if I have not filed the 3B by 20th of April and I have filed it 1 month later in somewhere in May, so in that scenario I am required to pay interest for 1 month at 18%. Second is, if I have availed input tax credit which is not eligible to me, and at later stage if it is required to be reversed. So if I availed some so for example, I'm not allowed to take refund as input tax credit as per section 17 subsection 5. So refund of vehicle is not allowed. The refund related to immovable property is not allowed. Refund related to food and beverages is not allowed. So if I am taking credit related to immovable property and later point of time it is identified, then I am required to pay interest at 24%. So these two rates. One important factor over here, which was in a lot of issues, lot of litigation happened on that, whether interest is payable on net liability or it is payable on gross liability. What is net liability? What is gross liability? Let us take an example. In the month of March, I have output tax liability of 15 lakhs rupees. I have input tax credit of rupees 14 lakhs. So on output, I have 15 lakhs. I have inputs of 14 lakhs. So net, I am required to pay 1 lakh rupees. But as all of you are aware, unless and until I pay my entire tax liability, I cannot file refund GSTI 3B. So suppose I do not have 1 lakh rupees. So I have not filed my GSTI 3B. and I filed my GSTR 3B 2 months later, 2 months after the due date. So whatever section is there, if we read, if we go through the section, it says that an interpretation of section is that interest is payable on entire 15 lakhs, whereas I am required to pay in cash only 1 lakh rupees. So as per the section, that interest is payable on 15 lakhs. A lot of litigations happen for this. Then government also come up with a proviso to that, which said that the interest is payable only on cash component. Cash component means, in our example, 1 lakh rupees. So I'm required to pay interest only on the net liability and not on gross liability. So I'm required to pay interest only on 1 lakh rupees. Then there was problem in this particular proviso also, which allows me to pay interest on net liability. There also they have made applicable this proviso with effect from 1st September 2020, very recently, just a few days back. But as per GST Council meeting, it was supposed to be made with retrospective effect. So latter CBIC has clarified the same by way of press release that it is with retrospective effect of 1st July. So now the case is we are required to pay interest on net liability at the rate of 18%. So as far as presentation is concerned, it's complete from my side. Yes, Manu.
Okay, so thank you. We have few questions from students. So first question is, what is inverted duty structure?
Okay, I think
We have covered it.
we have already covered it.
Okay. So next question, what is central tax in following? Refund of GST not allowed if you take duty drawback of central tax.
Okay, okay, I will explain this a little bit detail one.
Okay.
There are two rates of inverted duty. Sorry, there are two rates for. There were two rates for duty drawback. One was lower rate and one was higher rate. These rates are all industries same rates. So government defined these rates. Lower rate was to compensate basic custom duty, and higher rate was to compensate central taxes also. And this was actually in the region where excise duty was there. So if I was not taking input tax credit on my raw material, suppose I was not taking input tax credit on central tax excise duty, then I was allowed to take duty drawback at higher rate. So this was the scenario pre-GST, and even some transition period that scenario was there. But now there is only one rate, that is lower rate, only related to basic custom duty. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sorry, next question. In inverted duty structure, if output tax is nil, then ITC is not refundable. So it means that individual can't take ITC.
Yes, he cannot take. Even section 17 specifically said that credit is not allowed in case you are into exempt supplies. Okay. ITC is not allowed.
Sir, one student has raised hand. I just unmute herself.
Yeah.
Yes, Nita, you can talk. Hello.
Manmat Nita is on mute. She should be unmute.
Sir, she has raised hand.
She should unmute herself. Nita, unmute yourself.
Sorry, actually it got by mistake. Sorry.
Okay, no problem, Nita.
Yeah.
Any other students who have queries can raise your hand. Okay, sir. So thanks for this wonderful session and your guidance for this IDTPC course. And and thanks to Sami sir, Shravan Ladda, and I would like to over to you, Sami sir, for concluding remarks.
Thanks, Manmat. Good morning, Prahlad.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Samir.
dear students. It was a very wonderful series of almost, I think, 9 days, 7 days, no, Manmat? 9,
7 days.
7 days, 7 days.
yeah, 7 days of indirect tax practitioner course, along with 8 branches of our region and 1 branch across the region, Bengaluru. I give my sincere thanks to all the Vikasa chairmen of different branches, Bengaluru, Pimpri Chinchwad, Satara, Solapur, Ahmednagar, Amravati, Akola, Aurangabad, and Nagpur branch. I think this is such a almost 10 branches, including Pune. That's a wonderful joining for this series. Special thanks to Prahlad for today's session. Also, Prahlad has drafted the full 7-day series. Thanks a lot, Prahlad. Without your great cooperation, it won't be possible to arrange such a wonderful series. And all the sessions were very well taken by all the our panel discussion speakers. And I am very much sure that all the students will be benefited from this series. Students, we have a lot of such programs in upcoming dates. On 12th and 13th September, we have arranged tax audit seminar, 2-day seminar along with WRS in Nagpur branch. Registrations are already open. Please register yourself for the same, so that you will be benefited for tax audit sessions and you will be benefited during your tax audit work, which will be started soon, because nowadays the tax audit season is already started. So you will be benefited during your tax audit completion. So please register there. Thank you very much. Manmat, let's conclude. Thank you, Prahlad.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.